secret is I just smile and say, live for today. I'm sitting on top of the world, on top of the sun came up and I gotta say, see it in a whole new way. I'm sitting on top of the world, on top of the world, on top of the world. I'm sitting on top of the world.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Leaders and Learners, where we all know the best leaders are lifetime learners. They're always curious, always researching, and always doing something new to improve their leadership. And today I have Mr. Mayor Kevin Romick from Oakley, California. And let me tell you about this guy. You know, I've known him for a very long time. He's an amazing father, civil servant, and community leader. And I'm really happy to have him here today. So thank you, Mayor Romick. Tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Oh, that's born and raised in California, second generation. Born and raised in Hayward. Grew up in Hayward, went to San Lorenzo High School. Went to college at Ricks College in Rexburg, Idaho, which is now BYU, Idaho. Eventually transferred down to Brigham Young, and currently working, married for the last 32 years with 3 daughters, and very happily married for 32 years.
Good answer, good answer.
Good answer, yeah. And now I'm working at the USS POSCO Industries in Pittsburgh, which will be changing their name soon. It's a steel plant located in Pittsburgh, California, on the water. And that's where I'm at today.
Very good. So listen, you probably didn't expect this question, but I have to ask. My husband recently lost 30 pounds during COVID. He changed a lot of his habits and lost a lot of weight. And you know, that is a change that I remember seeing in you. There was a time when you lost a lot of weight. You changed something in your life.
Going back quite a few years, I peaked out at about 315 pounds. I'm 6'4", I'm wide. I've always been wide. So I somewhat carried it and people really didn't realize how big I was. As of a couple weeks ago, I'm down to 245. I can't remember when that was, the last time I was at that weight. A lot of it just came because of health reasons, and just changing the way you do things, changing how you eat, when you eat, what you eat. And there's been no mass starvation, no mass diets, no fancy diets. It's just been a slowdown in what I intake. And obviously I walk every weekend, miles every weekend with the dogs. And that's been about it.
You are a man of change. You were the mayor of a city that went through a lot of change. I remember seeing that. Kind of talk me through what it was like to watch Oakley change the way that it has over the years.
Well, you know, we became a city in 1999. We're the youngest city in Contra Costa. For those of us who aren't aware of where Oakley is or what Oakley is, we are in Contra Costa County, one of the 9 Bay Area counties. I'm not sure how wide your spread is or how wide your audience is. We are in the far northeastern corner of Contra Costa County, 55 miles northeast of San Francisco and 55 miles southwest of Sacramento. To the north of us is a delta in Sacramento County. To the east of us is a delta in San Joaquin County. To the south is Brentwood. And to the west is the city of Antioch. Like I say, we are the youngest city in Contra Costa. The reason I think we became a city is because we were tired of rule from the county, of lots of new development. You know, as the Bay Area began to grow and surge and push towards the boundaries of the Bay Area Center, we were kind of on the very edge of the boundaries of the Bay Area. And growth just eventually found its way out there, and it was kind of done, in our opinion, in a haphazard way underneath county control. We had lots of new development going on and no parks in those developments. And so, you know, when we incorporated in '99, we had 1 city park and 4 joint use facilities we shared with the school. We're up to 37 parks now. In 20 years, we've gone from 1 park to 37 parks. That when we still have, and then we also have joint uses with 2 parks by each Bay Regional Park District, both right on the Delta themselves. And so growth has been steady and a challenge, because you're taking what was formerly a fairly rural community, a farming community, mostly with grapes and almonds, and the almonds went out sometimes in the 50s with some diseases, but just mostly grapes, because we can't grow a lot of row crops. We are on top of sand in Oakley. We're on top of an old sand dune that's been an ancient sand dune that's obviously been here for quite a long time, and so growing row crops isn't in there. So we're mostly just grapes, and with a lot of skinny roads, country roads, farm roads, that needed to accommodate a growing population. And that's where the challenges really come into place, is how do you find the money to expand your road system, and where do you find the money to expand your road system to handle the coming population growth?
It's very much of a challenge, and I'm lucky enough to have been there when we were still having the Almond Festival.
Right.
Missed some of those moments. And even though some of those things have changed, the demographic has also changed. So talk to me a little bit about that, and how you have helped to make Oakley a home to everyone that has decided to live in Oakley, California.
Well, demographically, we have a rich history, Italian and Portuguese history. Some of our early founders were from them. We have a fairly large Hispanic community. About 36% of the community is Hispanic. The grade schools and high schools are much larger percentages there. The Afro-American population, as of, I'm going back, everybody finish your census, complete your census. We need that information. It is critical as we grow and as we look to the future. And how we plan things out, that everyone finishes that, so we get a good idea of how many people actually live in Oakley, and what our demographics are. So right now, as of the 2010, about 8.5% is African American, about 7% is Asian, and about 65% is Caucasian. More like, no, not even that much. More like 55% is Caucasian. So we've always had a somewhat diverse between Hispanic and Caucasians. We have a program in Oakley called You, Me, We, Oakley, and it is a very engaging program where we reach out there and we try to celebrate the diversity that we do have. In this program, we reach out to all the diversity that we have. We want all the cultures to come together and share with what they bring to our community. And we look for opportunities to engage in those and have programs and a lot of events around that culture of diversity that we do have, and then we'll only get more diverse as we move into the future.
One of my favorite events to see in Oakley was always the cityhood celebration, right?
Yeah.
That high level of pride. But I think part of that pride also comes in being able to share the history and the multiple cultures that seem to be there in that city. What else would you suggest the city could do, especially at a time like this when our country is so divided, and you definitely want to keep that hometown feel and that unity in the community there? Is there anything else that Oakley or any other city around could do like that?
That's part of the challenge of what we have to look forward to as moving forward, is trying to find, with a very limited budget on top of all this, of engaging people. I mean, you can't force anybody to come out of their house, especially today in this COVID. I mean, we're strangled somewhat for the last 5 months by telling everybody to stay home, stay in your house. But then we want you to come and join together and unite unite, but do it through your phone or through your website or whatever. So right now it's a little more difficult in trying to figure out, and when this will end is anybody's guess. But the more programs that we can have that celebrate the diversity and unique cultures that everyone brings with them. One of the nonprofits that I'm involved with is the Friends of Oakley Community Foundation, and our charter from our beginning has been to make Christmas a little bit easier for everyone in our community. Anybody who finds themselves in need, regardless of, as long as you have an Oakley address as our only criteria. We sort of expanded onto Bethel Island and out into some of the unincorporated areas around us into Knightson. And asking, and if you need help at Christmas, just let us know. We're there to provide Christmas dinners and presents for everyone under 17 years old. And it's open for everyone. And it's amazing how the community comes together at that time. And labels are discarded. Ways of identifying people are discarded. We're just looking for people who are in need, regardless of where you come from, as long as you are, like I say, an Oakley resident. Brentwood has their own programs. Other communities have their own programs. And so as we reach out to find unifying events and projects that we can bring the community together, I think will take us a long way towards getting beyond our present situation.
As a PR and branding professional, I utilize a method called identity branding. And most people think it's, almost like identity politics. They'll say it's to separate us. But identity branding is actually to find the things that are common in us, right? It's what's common, what's good, what can I attach onto that attracts me to you or you to me. So it sounds like, Christmas and some of the other things that you guys are doing are more along those lines. Let's find more of what's attracting us to each other rather than what divides us. Speaking of which, you have an amazing city manager that you've had for a while. Now, out here in Southern California, I know that we have had a few city manager spots that continuously become available. So I have to ask you, what have you been able to do all these years to be able to keep the same city manager? Like, what's the trick here?
I don't know. You're right. I know he has had offers.
What's going on?
We have talked. He and I have talked. I know he's had offers to move on. I think what makes Oakley unique is the challenges, because keeping city managers as long as we've got Mr. Montgomery is incredibly unusual. Even if you look around Contra Costa and you see how often they change, it's amazing. One thing that makes him somewhat unique is he lives in the city of Oakley, which gives him a buy-in into the progress we make here. He's invested here. He lives here, like I said, which makes it deep down. And we have been able to, and it's a challenge. I mean, here you are in a relatively new city, even though we're at 20 years now, we're still in the big picture, relatively new. There's always challenges. And for anybody who's looking for a real challenging environment, Oakley presents that to you. You have a very limited budget, a very limited staff, compared to our neighboring cities. And so it is a challenge. And if you're up for the challenge, and if you're looking for a challenge to drive you, that's it. And hopefully that's why he's still here.
I love that. He's definitely invested. I didn't run him off, so, kudos to Brian. Pretty great stuff. One of the other things I wanted to ask you is, why civil service? Why civil service? Why public service? You could have done a million other things with your time.
Well, I do. Yeah, I do a million other things with my time. I don't know what drove me. When I moved to Oakley, it was unincorporated. I did vote for cityhood. And it was a prospect of an apartment complex going in across the street from my house. That why we were in between, we voted for cityhood in '98 and became a city in '99. So in that, between November and July, there was this period of time where we had a council elect that weren't official councilmen, but they were busy putting together a city. And then this affordable housing apartment complex came up across the street from my back fence, and we didn't think it was an appropriate place for a multi-story apartment complex in the middle of a residential neighborhood. So we took our complaint first to the county because they were the ones in charge. And we were in a rather large meeting, and I was the biggest guy in the meeting. And so they all pointed to me when they wanted to know who was leading this group. And so I sort of became anointed that way. And then as I got to know more and more what was involved and what was going on, I started attending meetings with the city council elect that was held in the back room and the storage room, basically of a sheriff's department. There were no chairs. If you wanted to sit down, you had to bring your own chair. And there was no heating. You couldn't open up the doors during the summer because the bugs would all fly in from the field next door. And so we were in this rather unique environment. I was there working with the council elect and just caught the bug working with them and found how interesting and how engaging this was for me. And that led to, once we became a city, an appointment to the planning commission, to the first planning commission, which I was on for 4 years, and then decided to run for city council and got elected in 2004.
I love that. One of the things that it's not the best trait of, let's say, Redondo and a few other cities. Our city and Chamber of Commerce don't work well together, right? I think we're getting better. We're doing some things here that are trying to kind of mimic that. But it was my experience in Oakley, when the city and the chamber worked well together, there was always better results. You know what I'm saying?
The chamber in Oakley has a long history. There was a time that it was the only functioning organization before cityhood. It was the only functioning really organization within the city. There was a small Lions Club chapter there, but the chamber was it, and it put on all the functions. What you talked about. The Almond Festival was sponsored every summer by the chamber. After cityhood, things were a little strangled, but we worked with them fairly well. And then the recession hit.
Yeah,
the Great Recession hit, and the chamber nearly disappeared. And it struggled to meet all the events that they had done. They had done a Christmas event. They'd done the Almond Festival and a number of events. They just couldn't manage that anymore. We live in a city with very little business. There's no retail. There's relatively small retail, and everybody else is small businesses. There are no big businesses in Oakley. The largest employer is the school district, the elementary school district. And so they started recovering, but I'm not sure if you're aware, but they called it quits about 3-4 months ago. Mm-hmm. So the chamber no longer exists within the city of Oakley.
Yeah.
And we're looking for ways to sort of revive it, maybe create a downtown business association or something like that, or some other way of engaging the businesses. But a lot of these guys, the last few years have been really difficult, especially if you're a small business owner, especially right now if you're a small business owner with doors closed and whatnot, and no one able to come to your businesses. It is tough times, and hopefully most of them will survive by the time we can open up doors again.
Right. When I started with the small YMCA there, I remember I was underneath that restaurant, my office
Right.
was in the basement, and I went, over the last year, and there's an amazing Italian restaurant there and many other things. So it was great to see the expansion of the city, even in a city that doesn't have a lot of businesses. So I think you guys have done a really amazing job. What's next? What's next? What do you see in the future for Oakley?
What's coming right now is the Contra Costa Logistics Center on the old DuPont site.
Okay.
It will be 2 million square feet of light industrial.
Mm-hmm.
Logistics center. Building 1 is up. It is 14,000 square feet, and that will be Amazon. Building 2, the walls are up on building 2. I'm not sure who those tenants will be, and there's 3 more to come. And so we're looking at, Amazon is looking to hire and start shipping out of that facility October, November of this year. And we're talking 800, 900 jobs in that facility. and with about 2,500 jobs facility-wide when completed in a couple of years. And that will be, the problem with all of far eastern Contra Costa County is jobs. And everybody gets on Highway 4 and heads west every morning and heads back to work, heads back to East County at night because there just aren't the jobs out here that are needed for the population that we're growing, because we are the second largest region in Contra Costa aside from Central County. And we are pushing very quickly population-wise on Central County as far as number of people go. And so we have to start looking at ways to attract jobs in East County so we can alleviate a lot of the congestion on Highway 4, even though we just recently completed the Balfour Exchange, and it completed the widening of Highway 4 out to Antioch and out to Oakley, and BART is out here now in Antioch. So we're moving, but there's still, people just keep coming here because we're selling the last affordable house in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And so people just keep coming out here looking for that, and providing local jobs is our next biggest and I think most important undertaking we have to do is to bring jobs out here.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, you have, back to what I said before, seen a lot of change, right? One of my earliest employees was Brian Vanek, and I got to know Tinker and work with her at the YMCA. Mm-hmm. It's been a long road. I wanted to ask you, what is your legacy going to be with Oakley? What is the legacy that you're looking to leave with Oakley?
I don't know. I'm not really, legacies or something for somebody behind me to worry about, not so much myself. I would just like people to be able to say when they see my name, which happens to be, because I was mayor. We have a rotating mayor position in Oakley, like most cities in Contra Costa, where we swap every year. I've been in a unique position where I've been mayor. This is my 5th time in 16 years. And so I've been mayor more than anyone else. And so a lot of the buildings that went up while I'm mayor, my name will be on a lot of things once I'm gone. And my only thing I want people to be able to say is he worked and he did what he thought was best for the city of Oakley, to help us grow, to help us to make us what we are today. And that was his only task, that was his only goal, was to make it better, to make it more of a place for families, to keep that all together. That's the only legacy I think I'm really concerned with is that people realize that I've worked hard, that I've done a lot, that I put a lot of time and effort into this. And I think that's about all I could ask for is to be remembered as someone that worked hard and did what they could to help improve the life for people in the city of Oakley.
I love that. Real quick, do you have to have a thick skin to be in politics or be a person in public service?
Sure you do. Either that or you just have to get off social media. Because, I keep trying to, when new people come on the council and we get attacked and there may be someone who shows up at council meeting that's distraught or disrupted, or you may go on the next door and there's, 80 people that tell you what an idiot you are. I keep having to remind them that there's almost 45,000 people in Oakley. And even if it's 200, that's still less than 1% of 1%. Don't let it get to you. When they show up in a mass with pitchforks and torches at City Hall, I'll get worried. But the day-to-day in and out of people being upset and mad at what you do and the choices you make, just do what you think is right and let the cards fall where they will.
I love that. Any other advice for anyone that might be considering running for elected position?
At this level, basically you're an elected volunteer. They don't pay you enough money to put up with the crap that you get, and you're never going to get enough money to pay up with all that. So just go into it with the idea that you're there to serve, and that's it. Don't expect to walk down the street and have everybody wave at you and smile and be happy that you're there. Because on every decision, 50% of the people are going to like it and 50% of the people aren't going to like it. So you can't be friends with everybody. Be prepared to give up some of your time. Be prepared. I mean, I've seen council members that come in with young children. I was fortunate that when I got started, my kids were all in middle school, and I was more of a nuisance than anything else around the house. And so when I did show up at home at night, they all looked at me and said, "What are you doing here? Don't you have someplace to be?" Because it can be time consuming. And if you're not willing to give up that time, then you shouldn't run. You know, there are no cut and dried hours that you put in. It depends on what the situation is and what needs to get done, and how much effort you have to put into it. You could slide by and just show up at council meetings and you're done. 2 a month, put in your time, clock it out, and walk away from the process. But then you're not giving it everything it needs to get done. You know, it takes time. You need to go out. You know, when you have land use decisions with you, you need to leave your house. You need to get off Google Maps. You need to go out and walk the property so you get a feel of what's going on and what it's going to look like. You need to be engaged somewhat. Don't be afraid to go out and talk with people. Don't be afraid to knock on doors. Well, today you can't, but there are times when you need to be more active than a lot of people think they need to be.
So you got to be willing to put in the work, not just take the time.
Right. Yep.
I love that. And I have definitely seen you do that over the years. And that's exactly why I wanted to chat with you. I know it takes sacrifice. Your family has sacrificed. You have sacrificed personal and professional time. And I personally want to thank you because my family started in Oakley. So thank you all for the service that you have provided. And, you know, I appreciate you spending the time talking to our leaders and learners, those that are interested in becoming effective leaders, and what I've seen you and your peers do over the years. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So thank you for your time. And thank you guys for showing up for another episode of Leaders and Learners. You can always follow us on Sand and Shores on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And we will be back next week.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you.